All right, so Bitcoin, it's on the verge of hitting $100,000.
Yeah,
Crazy, right?
that is pretty wild.
We're going to be taking a deep dive into an article from Bitcoin Magazine.
Okay.
It's called Bitcoin May Hit $100,000 Faster Than Expected.
Hmm.
And it was published just this week on November 13th, 2024.
So fresh off the press.
Yeah, so what's really interesting here is that Bitcoin jumped 25% in value just in the past week.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Especially, given that this price surge coincided with Trump's reelection.
Yeah.
For an asset that's known for its volatility, this is a pretty dramatic spike.
It is, and this article mentions that $100,000 is kind of like this magic number for Bitcoin enthusiasts.
Right.
Why is this particular figure so important?
I think, imagine if Bitcoin broke through $100,000.
Yeah.
What would that mean for, the mainstream acceptance of Bitcoin? It would kind of
Right.
propel it into a whole new category of like major financial assets.
Yeah.
So psychologically, it's a huge threshold.
Definitely. Now, this article says that there are a few different things that could be driving this price surge.
Oh, okay.
They call one of them the Trump effect.
Okay.
Another one is the excitement around ETFs.
Okay.
And then even some people are speculating that maybe the U.S. government will establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so let's unpack each one of these.
Okay, sounds good.
First off, the Trump effect.
No.
How much do you think that's really playing a role here?
It's, well, it's probably a little too early to say definitively if Trump's reelection is linked to this price surge or not.
Yeah.
But it's definitely creating a lot of buzz,
Yeah.
Some analysts think that his policies might create a more favorable environment for cryptocurrencies. But it's, it's still pretty early and there's a lot of different factors at play.
Yeah, it's not just a simple cause and effect situation.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, definitely something we should keep an eye on.
For sure.
So let's talk about these ETFs.
Okay.
The article makes it sound like these are a pretty big deal.
They are a big deal. So basically, ETFs, or exchange-traded funds, are kind of like this bridge between traditional investors and the world of crypto.
Okay.
It lets people gain exposure to Bitcoin's performance without actually having to buy the cryptocurrency itself.
So instead of like going all in and buying Bitcoin directly, you can just kind of dip your toes in through these ETFs.
Exactly, yeah. It's a much easier way to get involved.
And this isn't just like individual investors. This is like big institutions that maybe were a little hesitant to invest in Bitcoin directly.
Right.
Now they can just kind of get in through these ETFs.
Exactly. And all that institutional money flowing in could be a major factor behind this price surge.
Yeah, that makes sense. More investors, more demand, higher prices.
Exactly.
Okay. So now this strategic Bitcoin reserve, this is really interesting.
Yeah, what's the story there?
So the article says that some investors are buying a lot of Bitcoin right now. And they think that the U.S. government might establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve, similar to how nations hold gold reserves.
So they're betting that if the U.S. government decides to stockpile Bitcoin, the price will skyrocket.
Exactly.
And they'll already be ahead of the curve.
They'll be ready.
That's a pretty speculative move.
It is.
But it shows that people are really starting to believe that Bitcoin could become a significant reserve asset.
Okay, so we've got a lot of different factors at play here.
It's a lot to think about.
Political factors, increased accessibility through ETFs.
Right.
This speculation about the U.S. government stockpiling Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's a lot to digest, but what does all of this mean for someone who's brand new to Bitcoin?
Well, it's important to remember that Bitcoin is still a relatively young asset, and it's prone to rapid and unpredictable price swings.
Yeah. I mean, we've all seen how volatile Bitcoin can be.
Right. Even seasoned analysts who predicted big swings are surprised by just how quickly things are moving right now.
Wow.
And the sheer magnitude of this recent surge. It begs the question, are we entering a new phase of price behavior?
That's a great question. And you know what?
What?
We've got to take a quick break.
Oh,
But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive.
sounds good. This surge toward $100,000 puts Bitcoin in a whole new category.
Yeah.
It even challenged gold.
Yeah, the article even says that Bitcoin's on its way to becoming a legitimate reserve asset, potentially even rivaling gold.
Wow.
Is that just hype, or is there some truth to that?
Well, this idea of Bitcoin as digital gold has been around for a while.
Yeah.
And both of them are scarce and have limited supply.
Okay.
But it's not a perfect comparison,
Right.
I mean, gold has this long history as a store of value.
Yeah, for thousands of years.
Exactly, for thousands of years. And Bitcoin is still so young.
Right.
So its long-term value still needs to be proven.
But it's definitely gaining traction.
It is, yeah.
The article mentions that Bitcoin's digital nature gives it some advantages over gold.
Oh, for sure.
How does that play into the comparison?
Well, think about like international transactions. Moving large amounts of gold across borders is a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
You need armed guards and planes and ships.
exactly. But with Bitcoin,
Yeah.
you could theoretically transfer millions, even billions of dollars
Wow.
with just a few clicks.
Really?
Yeah, that kind of ease and speed could completely change the game for central banks managing their reserves.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
But what about the volatility?
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't that make it risky to use Bitcoin as a reserve asset?
Well, volatility is a valid concern for sure.
Yeah.
But remember, Bitcoin's price is still maturing.
Okay.
As more people use it and the market matures, we could see the volatility decrease.
Okay.
And, gold prices can fluctuate too,
Yeah.
maybe not as dramatically as Bitcoin,
Right.
but still.
Okay, so let's say Bitcoin hits $100,000.
All right.
What would that mean for, like, the average person?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
If Bitcoin keeps gaining mainstream acceptance and its value keeps rising, it could change everything.
Really?
Yeah. It could change how we make purchases, how we save for the future.
Wow, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
This article focuses a lot on the short-term gains.
Yeah.
But what about the long-term implications of all of this?
Right.
Could this surge be a sign of, like, a fundamental shift in how we think about money?
It's possible.
Yeah.
The traditional financial system is facing a lot of scrutiny right now.
Uh-huh.
There are concerns about inflation and the stability of fiat currencies.
Okay.
Bitcoin, with its decentralized nature and fixed supply, offers an alternative.
Right.
It's like a potential hedge against those concerns.
So are we, like, on the verge of a financial revolution?
I don't know if I'd say revolution,
Uh-huh.
but we are witnessing a significant evolution in the financial landscape.
Yeah.
The rise of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is a challenge to the established order. It's a potential shift in power from centralized institutions to a more decentralized system.
It sounds pretty radical.
It does, yeah.
But what does it actually mean for someone who's just trying to understand all of this?
I think it's natural to feel both excited and apprehensive about such a fundamental shift.
Right, because it could be good or bad.
Exactly.
Mhm.
There are potential benefits like more financial freedom,
Mm-hmm.
increased transparency,
Okay.
and maybe even a more equitable system.
Right.
But there are risks too.
Okay, like what?
Regulatory uncertainty, security concerns,
Right.
and the potential for disruption.
So basically it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, you could say that.
We need to be careful.
I think instead of being careful, we need to stay informed and engaged.
Okay.
This is a story that's still unfolding,
Right.
and it has the potential to impact all of us in huge ways.
That's a great point.
Huh.
This deep dive has been full of really interesting insights and thought-provoking questions.
It has been fascinating.
What's your final takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think the key is to stay informed, stay curious, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in the hype or the fear. Approach it with a critical and discerning mind. Engage with the technology, understand the potential benefits and risks, and form your own conclusions.
That's good advice. The $100,000 milestone might just be the beginning of a much larger story,
Yeah, who knows what the future holds?
one that could completely change how we understand money and finance.
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Bitcoin.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious.